Hi friends, welcome back to ASL Masterclass. I hope you've been practicing your finger spelling and getting comfortable with it. Today we'll be going over the WH words briefly before we go into the 50 most common nouns in English. In ASL, the proper way to create a sentence structure grammatically is to use these words at the end of the question. Let's go over how to sign these. The first word we're going to discuss is what. There are three ways to sign this. There is what, with your eyebrows down, leaning slightly forward, and signing what. There is a second way where you use the one hand shape going down the flat hand. What? And then the last way is to do it lexicalized, and it's sort of a backwards way of saying what. It's more upward and it's spelled for emphasizing, so it's much more strong. Perfect. Now let's do that again. What with the one hand shape, what with the five, or what, the finger spelling way. Very good. The next WH word is who. So you're going to make sure for all of the WHs you always have your eyebrows down and you have your chin out slightly or you're leaning a little bit forward. And then you pause for an answer a little bit by the other person. So let's go ahead and do who. They, who. We're going to sign when. So you're going to take both ones and do when like this. Do where. Where. Just shake your hand just slightly. So for why, you can say Y from your forehead with a 5 to a Y, or you can also just move your middle finger only. Why. And then the last way you can sign Y is for emphasis. You would finger spell it also. Just spell W-H-Y. And also make sure that your face has some stronger expressions if you are meaning it very seriously, or if it's very sarcastic, you can obviously, express yourself that way as well. So the next one is which. You would take your A's and you would say which. Which. So it's kind of like the sign for maybe is a flat hand, but with which you use the A's. And the last one is how. So you can sign it either with your A's like this, how, or you can spell how, which is commonly used in the deaf community when they're asking for emphasis. How, H-O-W. So let's go over them one more time. What or what, or W-H-A-T. Who. Who. When. When. Where. Where. Why or why, or W-H-Y. Which and how. Every time you use the WH words, you typically have it at the end of your signing sentence. So, for instance, you would point and say, that person who, or you name what. Other times it is used twice. You would use the WH word at the beginning and ask the question and then end the statement with the same word again. For example, instead of signing, who are you, you would sign, who you, who. That would be typical. You would sign the beginning and at the end. Let's go ahead and go over a few more common phrases. You go where? Your birthday when? You leave why? Red, blue, which? Pay bill. How? The beauty of ASL is that we can shorten the typically long English phrases. Next, I'd like to teach you some of the most used nouns in English. Family. Take both hands and use F's and make that into a circle. Family. Boy. You would take this hand shape and just open and close it. Girl. You would use your A and you would slide it down your chin or your jawline. Girl. Man. So there's two ways to do man. You can either have the 5 hand shape and touch your forehead and then go down to your chest. Man. Or you can sign man with the A on the top of your head and then change the A to a 5 as you tap your chest. Woman is the same movement, but you start from the chin. You would do either the A5 woman or the 5 hand shape for woman. This also means lady. Next, we'll do father, mother, and children. So father, you can do the A5 and kind of wiggle it, or you can tap, means dad. And then there's mother, which is more formalized. So you can kind of like wiggle your fingers for mother, or you can sign mom with your 5 hand shape. And then children. Children is just like you're tapping on the top of children's heads. And then with kids, the other sign for children you can sign is this way, kids. Next, we'll go over the words group. So just like family, you're going to, instead of use the F's, you're going to use G's for group. People, you're going to take P's and make sure you sign people. And there's actually 2 ways you can sign people forward or you can sign people backward. Very nice. Animal. So animal looks very similar to a lot of other signs. So just make sure you tap your shoulder with both hands and make sure that you go sideways, in, out kind of motion like this. Animal. The sign for food or eat. You would just use this hand shape, food or eat. Next is life. You would take your A's and slide it from around your tummy up. Go life, like this. It also means live or alive. Plant. So there's a few variations of the meaning, but we're going to go simple for right now and just sign the sign for plant, the actual plant that grows. So the sign for grow is plant 1 time. We'll start getting into a little bit more complex things. As you multiply them, they mean different things. So for example, if you say grow twice, it means springtime. So if you want to just say a plant, just 1, you would just sign it once. So of course, there's a lot of context and it'll make more sense as we start to use sentences. But for now, we'll just do plant like this. Next common word is school. So you take your flat hand, you smush all your fingers together like this, school. Perfect. With work, you're going to have your S hand shapes or your A if you'd like. Some people have different accents on their hands, but usually S's are more appropriate for work. Usually you tap your wrist on top of the other wrist for work, like this. I've seen other people in different regions, they use work this way. So depending on the signer and the dialect that they have, this is also another way to say work. Next is church. You would take your C and you would tap on top of your wrist, just like you did with work. So again, school, work, church. Awesome. Good job. Next is day. So you're going to take your 1 and you're going to land it like this, day. If you're talking about multiple days, we'll get into that on another time. But for example, I'll give you 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. But for just day itself, you would sign it this way. Next word is mile. So there is no sign for this. You would just fingerspell that. For distance, you would say mile or miles with an S. Next sign is night. Night. The sign for number, you would have this hand shape and you would twist it. Number. Sentence. Some people sign it with one hand moving, or some people sign it with both hands moving the opposite direction. Sentence. Next is story. Story. The sign for time, you would take your X and you would tap it on your wrist. Time. Next word is word. The sign for word or vocabulary. Next is year. You would take your S and you would do this circular motion forward, and it goes forward, not backwards. I've seen many people make the mistake of going back, so make sure you go towards the person that's watching you. Next is America. So you're going to take your 5 hand shapes and you're going to go around. It's like United States of America, so you would do America like this. Next is city. Take your hand shape like this. It's like a B and an A combined, and you do city. Some people twist it. For me, that means community, but some people also sign it as city as well. Awesome. The next sign is country. So there's 2 ways to do country. You can either do the same hand shape as city. You would take this hand shape and do country with the B and A together. Or you can take your Y and do country like this as well. Next word is earth. This is a very strange hand shape, but you would just take this hand shape, your 5, you push your middle finger down and your thumb straight out, and land that on top of your fist. So you can go earth in a circular motion, or you can just go rock back and forth, kind of like this, earth. Next sign is farm. So you take your 5, you go from the opposite side of your chin, and then move it towards your arm. Or if you're a lefty, you would go on the opposite side from the right to the left. Farm. Next is home. You're going to use this hand shape, and it's where you eat and where you sleep. So you just keep this hand shape. Home. House. So you would take either your B or your BA hand shape and do house like this. So there's a couple ways. You can do house this way, or you can do house this way. And so there's a little variation. You have a little flexibility on that. But the one thing I do see people do, and that you should not do, is close the house at the bottom. That is not what you do. And also, I've also seen people using the one hand shape for house. Don't use the one hand shape. Use your full hand. Very good. We're nearly there. We still have quite a bit more. Land. So land, you can do land with the 5 to make it simple and clear, or you can kind of do like the money hand shape that people do in the Hearing Society. You do land and then this. It usually means like dirt, and then the vastness of the land, like this land. So there's a couple ways to do that. You can do either really fancy or just do it really, simple. Next word is mountain. So you can either use the S's and then go up, or you can kind of do like this other hand shape, kind of like the A and up. So you can use multiple directions. You can either go from the left to the right or the right to the left. It's not incorrect either way. Next word is river. Take your 1s, river. Or if you see people using R's, it is not ASL, but people in schooling, they sometimes use the first initial of the letters, and they use the R's for river. So you may see that from time to time out in society as well. So, but the proper ASL way is the ones. Next is sea. Sea and ocean are basically the same thing. So you would just have this classifier, which is just a, hand shape that you're showing of what it is. So it's just like moving water on top. So sea or ocean. Next word is state. So the United States, you would do US, and then you would do state like this, state. And of course, there will be other meanings of the word state, like the state of mind, but that would not be the same sign for state. It would be, the state of mind would be more of a different concept. So we'll go over those kinds of things in the future. Next sign is tree. You would take your 5, and this is your entire arm. You put your elbow on top of your other hand, and you would just kind of wiggle it, tree. If you're talking about a full-on forest, you would take both hands and do the same shape, and you would kind of go forward. But for right now, we're just doing one tree. Next is water. You take your W, very common word, and just tap right underneath your lips or onto your chin. Water. The next sign would be world. So you actually would use the W's for world. You would go circular forward, kind of the same concept as year, but now with W's. Or you can also sign it with your classifier hand. So you kind of do the outlining, the shape of a globe. Next sign you should know is letter. So you can do letter like this. Letter and then alphabet letter with this hand shape. Letter with the A's, and then letter alphabet like this, or letter, and then if you're talking about like mailing a letter, you would say send letter. Name. Name. Next word, song. Song. It's the same sign for music. Next sign is sound. So you either can say it noisy or I hear something, sound. Or if you want to make it more simple, you can say, I heard something. You would just kind of point to your ear and just go, there was something that just made a sound. Answer. Answer. So answer, usually you go forward. If you're telling someone to answer me, you would go forward and then back to yourself, answering me. Next word is back. Back, like BK. Or if you're talking about my back hurts, you would kind of use the A hand shape for back. End. So this could mean completion, or you can sign finish. The sign for a line. So if you're talking about a line that you're waiting in, it would be the 4 hand shapes. Or if you're talking about like there's a line on a paper, then you would sign with like either an I or different classifiers to indicate like an Excel sheet, like many lines. Next word is part. So part, there's many meanings on this. So it could be we're far apart. You would use your 1 classifiers. Or you can sign what's my part. You would sign some part. And then of course there's other concepts, but I will not go too deep into that. Next word is point. Again, point, you can talk about point or points. This could mean either you have a point to get to, or you have a point like a goal, or you can sign point like you're actually pointing at something that way. Next word is side. Either you can say, this is my side, or can you move over to that side? But in general, the sign is side. The sign for outside would be outside. Way. So you can sign way as in like a street or a method or a way to do something. Example. So example, formally, you would use your 1 hand shape twice. Instead of just show, which is once, you would do example twice. Or if you're out in society and people use pigeon signed English, they would also use E for example also. This is either PSE or Signing Exact English, SEE, which is different from ASL. Next word is idea. You would take your I and you go from your brain and you would go up. Idea. Next word is list. There's a couple ways you can do list. You can do lists like this, lists like this. So it depends on your style and your accent. Next word is page. So you would take your A and you would go on your flat hand and say page. Next word is paper. Take your fives, paper. You would go to the side. If you tap down, it means school. If you go to the side, it means paper. And if you go straight with your fingers all together, it means nice. Next word is picture. So picture, you would take your C and then you would put it onto your other hand. Picture. It also means photo. Next word is place. So you're going to take your P's and you're going to touch the middle fingers and then go backward, or you can do place forward also. But usually I go from the forward and then closer to me. Thing. You would take your hand, the BA classifier hand shape, you would do thing. You can either have both hands or one hand. Thing. We're going to go over body parts. Eyes or eye. You would sign with your one hand shape. You would point eye or eyes. Next sign, you would sign face with also the one hand shape, and you would just go circular on your face. The sign for feet, really you would finger spell it, and then you would point. And then you would use classifiers if you wanted to specify, which we'll get into at another time. But for now, just know the word feet. You would finger spell either for the body parts, feet, or feet as in measurement. The last two words are hand or hands and head. You would take this hand shape and you would just tap from your forehead to your chin or at the side of your jaw. And that concludes our time together. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn with me. Just keep practicing. Find a local deaf event. Make sure that you apply the ASL to real life interactions. And I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless.